Today we're going to talk about the one thing that you can start doing to improve on your camel skills. So it can be a really nerve-wracking time to deal with large animals. Both Russell and I have experienced that and continue experiencing the nervousness that comes with dealing with large animals. And I know one thing that you say, Russell, is that fear is normal, it's natural, and it's a good thing to have. Like, one thing that you can do to improve on your camel skills right now is to chillax.
If you're new to camels, which a lot of you probably are, or you're investigating getting with some camels in your life, and if you haven't had large animal experience before, it can be really nerve-wracking. There's a whole pile of things to be able to understand about the camel, and you're at the beginning of your journey, and so your fear levels can actually, well, this is my experience anyway, and well in the past now, thank goodness, but you can feel this fear inside you, this anxiousness, this nervousness, but you want to move forward. And the camel is such a sensitive creature, a bit like me.
And they really do pick up on all the feels that you're having. So if you're coming into the camel's bubble, I suppose you can say, because that could be approaching them in a paddock, or it could be approaching them in a yard, or whatever, they will feel everything. And I constantly get reminded of that myself every time I walk into the paddock, and maybe I haven't gone through my own thought process of how I'm approaching the camel, and they start walking away. I'm like, what's going on here? And often I have to go, oh yeah, I am feeling a little bit antsy, and I am feeling a bit rushed, and camels will walk away from that.
Yeah, I think one really good little technique that I used to use, and sometimes I do even now with the camels, is that first of all I just stop. I'm really good at that. And just look at them for a while. Just look at them for a while and seeing how they're reacting to different things, and including yourself in the distance, somewhere in the distance. And that actually came about. It wasn't a technique that I've learnt from anyone else or anything. It was just a technique that I learnt from tracking the camels out in the desert areas, and you'd be doing something, and all of a sudden you'd get this feeling. It was I don't know, it was a funny sort of feeling, and you look at the camels, and they're all, they've got their eyes a little bit wider, and you can see they're all looking in one direction. This is how sensitive they are. And what they were hearing something that might have been over the sand dunes or something like that. That we couldn't hear, because our hearing's not that good compared to a camel's. So that's how sensitive these creatures are. And so just observing them, stopping and just looking at them for a while, and just observing, and your own levels of anxiety coming down, at the same time. Or nervousness or anxiousness or whatever you want to call it. I found that really, really quite helpful at times. And if you can see that, there's two camels that, if you've got a little small herd of camels, there's a couple of camels that having a bit of a tiff or whatever, well, let them have their tiff. Don't go in the paddock and try to interrupt it, okay? Don't interrupt it.
Yeah, the camels will always win over a human. They're 10 or 5 times the size of us.
That's it. Just let it happen. Let them sort it out. Let everything calm down. Sort of let those levels come right down, And
so they are very good at self-calming, camels. Like, compared to, I find, other large animals, I find camels really good at self-calming. Like, they have their thing, and they're like, okay, that's over.
That's it,
and it's like nothing happened, and then it's crickets afterwards.
And the other thing, when you do end up going up to your camels or something like that, then if especially if you've been, if you haven't been doing something like treat training, then if a camel coming over towards you, well, you can read what that camel's, why that camel's coming over to you. We've got one camel in particular. I've had him for nearly 20 years, and he comes over. I mean, he loves that human contact. Just loves it. The others, look, they'll stand there. You know,
They might meander over, but he's like
they're not.
He's like a
really,
big dog.
yeah, they're just so used to us, and that's fine. But he's got that human contact, and I do remember actually another camel that I dealt with. Oh, jeez. Anyway, that was before I got my own herd. Another couple of lifetimes ago. But this camel, my mentor said, "Oh, go out in the paddocks and just make sure on the camels." So I went out there. And this camel came charging over to the car, bubbling and burbling and putting the head up and all that sort of business. And I thought, what on earth have we got here? I didn't know the camel, had never seen it. And anyway, because I went round the other side of the car and she came round after me and we were chasing each other around the car. What I didn't know was that camel was actually hand-reared on a station and loved the human contact and got excited and happy about that human contact, coming into its space again. But that could have been misread, and at the time I did misread it. I thought, oh my God, this thing's charging, and I was new to camels at that time, and just thought, what have I got myself into? What on earth have I got myself into?
Am I going to die today?
But in saying that, once it was explained to me, where that camel's background came from, then my approach was different. The next time, went out in the paddock, and the camel came bubbling and burbling over, I just stood there, and as the camel came closer, I go, "Hi girl, how are you?" All the nice things, and put my hand up away from my body, so that the camel could have a sniff, and of course the camel carried on, and but the camel was happy, and I knew that then, it was quite fine. So every time after that, that was my approach with that camel, and so long as she got that human contact, then once she calmed down, happy, calmed down from seeing someone, then she was quite able to just simply stand around the place and meander around and all that sort of thing. But she needed to do that. That was her thing. So
if we're talking about like one thing that you can do to improve on your camel skills right now, it's to chillax. Just relax a bit. Like, always assessing your approach to the camel or camels that you're dealing with. And we do this is habit for us. Like I learnt the hard way, Russell learnt the hard way. We know that we have to check in with ourselves before we go into a paddock. If we're feeling rushed, even our elder camels, like, they're not too bad, but often if they pick up on us being rushed and like, oh my God, we're in a panic, we have to get somewhere with them, blah blah blah, it will be really hard. It'll be harder to deal with them. They just don't resonate with that. They're a camel. They're designed to be slow. They're designed to be chilled. They're designed to face their fear and assess it before making the decision. So you kind of got to be more like a camel.
For sure. And look, I mean, even now with our little beach riding operation that we have in summertime and various other times throughout the year, sometimes, we're time constricted. And I have to get into the paddock and just do the job, but I do it in such a manner, in a calm manner, but with determination. It's sort of calm, determination, and matter of fact. And they've learnt to accept that, which is a really good thing too. But when first starting, with the camels, and you had to grab a hold of the camels, in a small space of time. I wasn't like that, and yes, it was a bit of a challenge, and yes, your levels raised up, and yes, it just wasn't, it wasn't a good start really. And it's just experience.
Yeah, it is experience. But, if you're watching this video, you already got one of the major tips. Is just chillax a bit. Just relax. Check yourself. Check in with yourself before approaching camels. Like, how am I feeling? Am I going into these yards or going into this paddock feeling nervous, feeling rushed, feeling time constrained? In Virtual Camel School, which is our signature camel training program, we talk a lot about, checking in with yourself and also give yourself in that week camel time. You know, give yourself a few hours, you know, a week, not just one, like, oh, okay, I've got myself 1 hour, I'm going to teach the camel to sit. No. You got to give yourself some camel time, you know, at least half a day, a full day ideally, because you just don't know how long things are going to take. And if it doesn't work the first time, which sometimes it doesn't, as you might know if you work with camels, you got to keep going until it does, because if you leave the camel where it's at, it's gone, oh, well, there's no point to that. If she says sit, he or she says sit, I don't have to sit. So, you know, you really got to check in with yourself on how you're approaching your camel training, how you're approaching your camel handling as well, your day-to-day stuff, because well, I was going to say we're not always training, but we kind of are always training. We're training ourselves to think more like the camel, and we're training the camel to understand what we're trying to ask by us reading the camel.
I'll give you another little tip actually. Oh, well, it's not a tip, you don't have to follow this. Your lives probably are very, very different to what ours are, what our lives are like. But when I first started getting into camels and I realised camels weren't going to come to me, I had to go to them, and so I made the shift, you know. I sold up gear and, you know, moved to different parts of the country so that I could be with camels. Part of this process of actually changing myself to be more camel orientated was, prior to all this, I wore a watch because I was time constricted in my daily life. And so, you know, I had to be certain places at certain times.
That's really hard to believe.
Yeah,
you completely changed now.
Absolutely, and that's a major source of frustration for a lot of people now, because they're so time constricted, where I am not anymore. You know, the days flow quite nicely without me. I haven't worn one of those things on my wrist in decades.
Sometimes you wear them out trekking, but that's
that's trekking reasons. But yeah, but other than that, I really don't look at it. And I don't actually. I can't even know where my watch is, to be honest. I wouldn't have a clue. But yeah, I realised that you know, that was actually a great way to live. Was how the camel lives. I realised it, you know, and so trying to calm myself down. Was a byproduct, if you like, of or a source of helping me to calm myself down. And so when I'm with the camels, I'm just flowing with the day.
You're on camel time.
Yeah, and I found that really, really helpful, because being with camels is what I wanted in life, and so I had to make those changes. So I'm not saying throw your watch away, okay? Your lives were probably incredible.
I really love my Apple Watch, guys. So, like, I am keeping my Apple Watch.
Your lives are probably really, really busy, and
I ignore most of those notifications.
I couldn't care less about an Apple Watch. But I don't want to know when someone pings me.
Oh no, all my notifications are turned off, that's for sure.
I mean, if ever you tried to ring me, you know how impossible it is.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know, but when you're setting aside, you know, the day or, you know, a couple of days or whatever for camel training, I'll give you this little challenge of take your watch off and put it away. You don't need to know what that time is. You know, when you get hungry, it's probably lunchtime.
Or ignore your watch. I can certainly ignore mine quite easily.
You know, whatever the time is, you know, you want to be able to have that flowing feeling when you're with the camels, and they'll appreciate that so much more.
Well, they understand that because, one, they're camels, they don't have watches, and they don't have a concept of time.
No. They're hungry or not hungry.
Similar to dogs. Like when you come home to your dog, they're like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in a million years. And you're like, been away for like 5 minutes. They don't have this concept of time. So to them, it's irrelevant. So it just makes sense that when we go in to train and handle them, that we don't have, like, we can have that in the back of our mind. Well, we've got stuff to do. We've got places to be. You know, if you've got an operation, obviously, you know, there's things to be done. But just, you know, that's there, but it's not at the forefront of like, oh my god, we've got to do this, do that. It's just there, and you know it's there. And the camels, obviously having a routine for your camel is paramount to all of this, because that will help you relax and that will help them relax into their routine as well. We talk a lot about routines in Virtual Camel School, how important that is, that the camel feels secure in that way as well.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's important. And yeah, like set yourself those times, you know, and remove as much of the daily stress that we place upon ourselves for our lifestyles and for being a human being in today's modern world. Remove as much of that away from you as you can, and have that beautiful time with your camels. I mean, I'm making some saddles at the moment, and the pressure's on a bit, to get these done. There's a lot of work in handcrafting saddles. Just to let you know.
I know, it's very frustrating for me to watch.
And I do work casually, in an aged care facility. But what I'm setting myself is some time after I finish these saddles to actually grab my camels during the week and go off for a few days. And I'm not going to take any of those distractions with me so that I can actually spend time with some of these camels that need a bit of a touch up with their training. And I don't want those distractions. So yeah, a couple of days during the week, that'd be great, and I can still do a bit of aged care and get ready for the summer season coming. But when I'm with those camels, I'm with those camels. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Right.
And I think that wraps up today's conversation with you. The number one, what did we call it now? One thing you can start doing to improve your camel skills, and that is just to chillax.
Yeah,
just
definitely.
relax a bit. We've been through all the whys, we've been through a few stories, so you've got the concept of it now. And trust us when we say it makes a world of difference, and your camel will be happier, and you will be happier too, because you're going to get better results with your training and handling.
Little sideline to say about this, however, that little bit of fear that you might have if you're new to the camels and things like that, remember it's important to have that little bit of fear. Okay?
It's to keep you safe.
It is to keep you safe, so that you're conscious of where you position yourself, and you're reading the camel and you're observing your environment, so that something in the environment makes the camel move a certain way, and you're in its space and you're not meant to be that close to the back leg or something like that, and and gets a kick out and all that sort of thing. Right, this is where that little bit of fear puts you in tune as to where you're at within your environment in relation to the circle. What do they call it? It's a circle of influence. It's a circle, personal space of the camel. So that if you're invited into that personal space, that's great. Okay, you'll know with the camel being that chilled, but also how much to test the boundary and when to pull back. So remember, that little bit of fear is good, but at the same time, the chiller you are, the more chilled the camels are. And to give you a little story of this, one more story before we go. The chickens just, two roosters are having a fight. One little story about this, when I was about to walk through Melbourne City once with the camels, one of the camels, he started getting all nervy and shaky and anxious and everything like this, and I started, I went over to the camel and patted it on its nose, and then I grabbed its leg, and I'm just stroking its leg and its chest area, around its heart area, that sort of thing, and just speaking nice words to it and all that sort of stuff. And time was ticking, and there's that time constraint thing, with the human condition.
You were on a time constraint. You had to walk through at a certain time.
Had to walk through certain times.
Traffic was stopped, trams were stopped.
All sorts of things were going to happen. But I needed to spend that time with that camel so that camel didn't wind itself up even further if I had have gone.
That would have been trouble in the city.
That's right. Yeah,
so it was worth taking that time.
It was worth taking that time. I remember someone coming over saying, why
are you patting your camel?
Jack's really nervous about this sort of thing, it's just making me nervous. And I said, well, if we start to chill out, then the camels will chill out, and it's all going to be fine. And I've never, for some reason that came into my mind, I blurted it out, and I've lived by it ever since. And
makes complete sense.
And the camels, did the job beautifully, just absolutely on clockwork.
So some other news too, guys, that enrollments for our next live round of Virtual Camel School are now open, which means you get to do training with us in our camel yards and learn exactly how to train and handle your camels in a respectful way using our Camel Connection trust-based camel training. We love doing these live rounds. It's our thing, you know. It's what we do. We love teaching people how to train their camel and get connected. Most importantly, get connected. That's always the first priority, because that always sets you up for success. So even if you think, oh well, my camel's already trained, trust me, there's new levels, new level, new devil, all the time. Like, there's always new levels. And if you love our content here and love what our values that we stand for, then Virtual Camel School would be your place to be, because we've got an amazing community there of camel connectors that come together and want to learn this information and share what their journeys have been as well, which is awesome. So you can go over to camelconnection.com/Camel School and find out more about what we offer there. We've got a couple of bonuses running this round, and I think it closes in about a week's time. So check it out before you miss out.
Don't miss out.
All right, so thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Good on you, folks. Have a great day. See ya.
Bye. Virtual Camel School enrollments are now open. From wherever you are in the world, you can get access to our popular pre-recorded camel training video course and join us live online in our own camel training yards, where we will be giving you camel training demonstrations, troubleshooting, and answering your camel training questions. See us live once a week for 4 weeks in this dynamic program. You'll be learning the gentle approach to camel training, namely our Camel Connection trust-based camel training, to build a strong foundational training for yourself and any camel you work with. You don't need a camel to take part. Those that have camels can join and implement the training as we go. This is for beginners to advanced camel owners, handlers, and of course lovers. We guarantee you'll learn something new. This is the best place on the internet to improve your camel skills, confidence, and knowledge on the camel's psychology. Find out how you can join by visiting camelconnection.com/camel school.